Powered by a Reb Media in partnership with TSN, it is season 6 of the Rain Dregs Hockey Podcast, and it is now proudly presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Ray, you know this, the Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back in the Tim Hortons app. Daily and monthly prizes available, including a 2025 Hyundai Tucson. That's the season's end grand prize, a sweet ride. All you have to do is pick the players that you think are going to score by using the app every game day. So it's easy, it's free, and it is fun to play. So as we get ready for headlines, welcome aboard as title sponsor, good pals at Tim Hortons.
Thank you, Tim's, and looking forward to another good year as we start 2025. I'm in Seattle, and Drake, you remember when we were out there? We were out there for the you were out for the World Junior in Vancouver, and the sun never came out for 14 days. We're right in that right now. There's like not even a hint of it. It's like under 43 layers of clouds. So that's what we're.
You're fully. Yeah, you're fully back in work mode though, right? Like, I mean, you're traveling, you're buzzing around. I'm limping my way in that direction. So we're recording this on Thursday, January 2nd. I'm actually going to do one of the intermissions tonight in the Winnipeg Jets regional broadcast.
Oh, so one intermission. Me up. One intermission.
Yeah.
Careful.
We have to slow play. So I'm going to give you an example of how my house is still in sort of holiday mode. Okay, so Holly Drager, lovely Mrs. Drager, comes down this morning. I'm always up early, right? So I'm a 6:30 a.m. sort of guy, Eastern. Just the way it rolls. You know, I like getting stuff done. You start, look, full admission, I do not stay up until the final buzzer of all the, Pacific time games. I don't.
You can't do it.
I can't do it. It depends on the game. As we get closer to the playoffs, yes. So what I do is I watch, the game in review the following morning, check all the goals. I look at all the summaries, make sure there are no match penalties, none of the nonsense. Did that. Well, this morning was easy because it was an early New Jersey LA game. It was the only game. So anyway, I'm still up early. So Holly comes down after having her shower. And I don't know about you, but when we don't have a whole lot going on, it's just her and I in the house. The soft pants are a key form of attire. So, she comes down after the shower with her sweatpants on. She's mulling about, getting her coffee ready. All of a sudden, I look down, and there's a pair of women's underwear on the kitchen floor. And I'm like,
is this a green light or what's going on?
What? Where are we going with this? What happened? She goes, oh my God. So I think what happened was, I've done this, you take your sweatpants off, you just hang them up or you put them over here, you get out of the shower, you lay them on the tub, you put them on the counter, whatever. And then you shower, you put on fresh undies, put the sweatpants back on, and away you go. So that's what she assumes happened. And then they just kind of jostled their way down and fell out her pant leg. So anyway, I felt like it was like 95 years old. What are we doing here? What's happening? So
that's that. See, there's only two of you in the house too, so there's a giggle. Like I got a freaking boatload of people in my house this week, and
I saw that.
Yeah, it's so great. Like Matt and his family are back, my oldest son, and so Manroop and Enzo and Ari are there, and then Landon's there with Emily and Luca, and then R4, and like it's just mayhem. So if there was any item of anything anywhere, I wouldn't even bat an eye at it. It's like it's freaking whatever. I'm on the road. I'm all unpacked. Everything's nice and neat in the room, and so safety, sanity here.
They would have a field day with that, trying to figure out, okay, who is the owner of these and how did they get there?
Those two now, here's the worst part of having two older ones and two younger ones. Yeah. You know how the kids get in the teenage years and they think you're dumb anyway, right? Like you're a dope. And so I'm a little bit behind the game with a 15 and an 18-year-old. I'm trying to keep up with the language and the terms and anyway, I don't have it. And then the two older ones do nothing but stir the basket up with those two. And so
of course.
It's like it is 4-1 in the house. I am just getting pummeled in there. And they're They can't stop. Like anything, they move my papers around. They like,
Oh, jeez.
it's fucking nonsense.
That's outstanding. All right, buddy.
So
Well, let's check into Tim Hortons headlines because there is a fair amount going on around
yeah,
the National Hockey League. Some of it good and some of it not so good. That's just the way it is in pro sport. Austin Matthews, captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs, spoke on Wednesday. He will miss his 15th game of the season tonight and sixth straight game that he's missed since recently aggravating his upper body issue. He says he's trying to manage it. Quote, trying to manage it, end quote. An issue that he's had since September, really since around or before start of training camp. How concerning, Ray, is it the fact that we know it's not structural, that's what we're told, but it has now twice flared up. And this is the third time that he's trying to manage it. I mean, it's not like the Toronto Maple Leafs don't have top resources. And he's certainly had ample opportunity to continue to rest. So there's a lot of hockey left ahead for Austin Matthews. And man, they need him healthy to go as deep as they need to. So how concerning would it be?
Well, concerning, yes, because he can't seem to get over the hump. But I think it's an opportunity to plan a little bit here. And obviously you'd like not to plan, but you're at this point with him. You got to figure something out. The Leafs are in a really good spot, right? If they lose a few points in the standings, it's not really going to matter to them at this point. What we don't know is if he took 6 weeks off, and I just picked that time frame out. There's no science to that. If he took 6 weeks off, would that help him get over the line? Because this January, February portion really is not going to matter to the Leafs season. They're going to win more than they lose, whether he's there or not. Obviously, they're nowhere near the team they could be when he's there. And a lot of this is like John Tavares has had a terrific year and been able to maybe do more than they thought. And that helps mitigate
no doubt.
Matthews' loss. If there's an opportunity to take a stretch of time, this is the chance to do it. And so while everybody's waiting around, is it today? Is it Tuesday? Is it Thursday? Is it next week? If it's after the Four Nations, what difference does it make?
It doesn't.
It really doesn't. And so this is an opportunity for them to take as much time. I'm thinking this is a little bit like Thatcher Demko's knee in Vancouver. Like they thought he was close in the playoffs last year. They thought he was, if they got into the next round, he might be able to play. And then, of course, he missed the first half of this season, right? So, and he took the whole summer off. So I guess my correlation is sometimes time off isn't it. Sometimes it's something else. And I'm sure they're going through, as you mentioned, the resources they have trying to figure it out. But they're not the team they could be, obviously, if he's not there.
Yeah, and I mean, you referenced the Four Nations face-off, and media in the Toronto market most definitely are openly questioning whether it's the right thing for Austin Matthews to play. I guess my pushback to that narrative is I understand why we're talking about it on January 2nd or prior to, but they're not making that call, be it the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews, or Billy Guerin and Team USA until just outside the Four Nations face-off. They don't have to. How do we know what he's going to feel like a month from now?
No, and so you wait. But I mean, in my opinion, there's got to be for Guerin and for the Leafs, there's got to be like a drop dead date to it. And it's not February 10th. It's, 2 weeks before that. Like, is he playing? Is he playing a regular shift? The last thing you want to do is play a couple of games, go into the Four Nations where the pace of everything will undoubtedly be high. And then he wakes up sore and can't play out of that. Like you can't have that happen. You've got to be with some certainty that he's going to be okay. I mean, the same thing is being asked a little bit in Vancouver about Quinn Hughes. Yeah. And, like Quinn's missed a couple of games here and he's not going to play tonight in Seattle. He probably won't play Friday against Nashville. So now you get into next week and you're like, well, what if it's a 2 or 3 week thing? I mean, nobody ever really knows. Like, do you like you start talking about, is he going to be available? Well, it's going to
Hmm.
be available. It's going to be that for almost everybody. But these
Right.
are two standout players that, you're at some point you got to take a look at, and so people are going to ask and question, but it's a month. It's like lots can happen in a month. At least that's, I don't think there's any immediacy to it right now, but
Hmm.
it's getting, immediacy comes pretty fast.
Sure. A player I didn't think we'd be talking about early in 2025 is Jonathan Taves. I think many of us assume that, given his health issues and how he was dealing with those health issues by visiting, undergoing treatments in India, that was it. I mean, his NHL career is over. He's just focused on getting healthy again and living out as healthy he can the rest of his life, right? But he spoke to a publication recently and talked about how good he's feeling and that the treatment is working, so you're happy in that sense. But he also dropped a bit of a nugget, didn't he, suggesting that the
Mhm.
notion of a comeback to the NHL is there. It's plausible. It doesn't He's not ready now. I can't imagine we're having this conversation about linking teams to Jonathan Taves anytime soon, but it's certainly created a bit of an undercurrent of buzz, not a full-on buzz, just a little one, as teams
Mhm.
look to the offseason and, okay, well, if he's healthy and he's skating and he's willing to try a comeback on a PTO or a minimum salary deal, yeah, we'd be interested in that.
Well, just think of all the things you lined up. If, right? He hasn't played in a year and a half. He
Yeah.
wasn't, you know, to say, like, in theory, it's great. There's a great old joke. You can't, I'm not going to tell about theory and reality. And, like, in theory, it's a great idea. In reality, it's not a good idea because,
No.
you know, anyway, he's going to get, if he wants to try it, he can try and get back into shape. And, remember, like, it's hard, well, not remember, it's hard to know how much of and if you read the article, it was all about body inflammation and he just felt
Yeah.
terrible most of the time, like, just like he felt terrible. He was really a step, a step and a half slow when he left the game. Now, how much of that is tied to the inflammation stuff, I don't know, but it would be hard to think that he got much faster in a
Yeah.
year and a half. The game's not getting slower. Could he play? He would be the only one to make that determination that he's willing to put the work in. Like,
Yeah.
pretty clearly, one thing about him is when he's committed to something, he's going to do it. I don't
Oh
know
boy.
how deeply you read that article, but that did not sound like a lot of fun when he
No.
was, he wasn't on vacation. And
No, he was not.
so I'm thinking a little bit like Gabe Landeskog and the people in Colorado are, always kind of around the edges going, well, what if Landeskog could come back? We remember Landeskog at his best when they won
Yeah.
the Stanley Cup,
Hmm.
not in the guy that's missed the last year and a half. Like, what could he possibly be when he comes back? Like, to me,
Yeah.
it would be the most open of questions. And I would say the same thing about Taves. Like, if he wants to try it, man, he's got a lot of hurdles to jump before he even gets to the starting gate.
Yeah, and a lot of people hoping for him, and a lot of teams
Yes,
certainly
you want him to
intrigued. The
feel
list
good,
will be long.
don't you?
Yeah,
The
yeah,
whole point is you want him to feel good. Like, this is, if you're
yeah,
chasing around the world trying to feel good, you've had a long path, and it's good to see that he's happier
yeah.
and healthier, and if he wants to give it a go, give it a go. But it's going to be hard.
Uh, let's talk a little bit about his former team, the Chicago Blackhawks. Okay, Winter Classic. They are the spectacle with the St. Louis Blues, magnifying glass globally, because that's what the Winter Classic is. We talked about this earlier this week in teeing up the Winter Classic between the Blues and the Blackhawks. But I speak of a magnifying glass, and unfortunately, it showed clearly how tough things are for the Blackhawks right now. Where do you begin, and how does it end?
Well, I did the game on the 30th. Dallas was in there and they won 5-1, and that could have been 12-1. Like, it was not even close. Chicago got the first goal of the game, and
Yeah,
then that was pretty much it. I remember maybe one or two saves that Jake Ottinger had to make, but not really much. Then they go into the Winter Classic, and I mean, they're out of that before the game's halfway over. Like it's over. The I wonder, like, in the off season they went and signed some older guys, try to add some, a veteran balance to a very youthful roster. So I know it's hard, but like they're just nowhere near skilled enough. Like to me, they got older, not better.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like their lack of skill is so apparent. Now you can talk about all the draft picks that are coming and all the young guys that possibly might be there in the next year or two. Think of that, year or two.
Yeah.
Now, once they get there, how long is it still? Like they are miles away, like literally miles away from being a contender for a playoff spot. Not a
Mm-hmm.
Stanley Cup champion. That's who knows where that is. But like there's not there if you go to like it's easy to say full scorched rebuild, scorched earth rebuild. It's almost a decade. If you decide that, if everything goes right, you can maybe do it in 6 or 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of ticket buying for 6 or 7 years. It's a lot of faith that you have to have that the decisions you're making are generally the right ones, because some of them aren't going to work out anyway, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
you can execute, or you can have a great plan and it just doesn't work very well. Dregs, they're miles away
Seem to
from.
be. Yeah.
Oh, it's like they're like I said. I mean, they've got some young, really young, intriguing defensemen. I would say more so than forwards. But oh boy, you just drop a 20-year-old in on defense. Do you think three of them are going to be good? That just
Yeah.
doesn't happen that way.
Mm.
They're long, long, long way away. So it's a hard road for them right now, and it's a premier franchise.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing for the league too. Is like there's certain franchises, that premier ones, that big
Yeah.
cities, big markets, you want them to be prominent, and the Hawks just aren't right now.
Did you see the quotes in the New York Post from Zach Jones, a defenseman with the New York
Yeah,
Rangers?
not
I mean,
happy.
I'll paraphrase. Not happy. And I mean, what is he, 24 years old? He just wants to get his NHL career going, right? And unhappy with the decision making of Peter Laviolette, who's coaching for his contract right now, right? And Jones, disappointed that he's been a healthy scratch so many times. And to paraphrase, just simply says, I feel like I'm rotting here with the New York Rangers. And it just seems like one more thing, right? With New York, just one more player in disarray, one more piece of negativity that finds its way into the public eye.
When things are lousy, crap sticks to the lousiness, right? Like it's like poop to a rabbit's fur,
Yeah.
right? It's just gonna stick there. And so this could have been had the Rangers won 10 of the last 12, this would
Yeah.
be a young player wanting to get into the lineup. But I totally get it from Zach Jones's perspective. He's been with the Rangers for the most part for the last couple of seasons. When he plays, Laviolette talks about how much he likes him, how much he's done a good job. He's not a big guy, and that's always the challenge with him.
Yeah.
However, whether the Rangers are winning or losing or whatever, one guy is looking at his own life, and he's like, man, I'm 24. Like, years start to clock by, and you get put in a box of, this is what you are. You're a third pair, seventh defenseman. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think the market is around the league for that? None. Right? Like because the team that might be interested would say, yeah, but he never plays. So how good can he be? I can't even scout him. So I totally get his frustration. I mean, it is a careening mess from one side of the road to the other in New York. And now Shesterkin's on IR. And, like, I don't know. I mean, I can't find a piece of good news.
Tough
there.
schedule, too. Like, they've got an ugly schedule.
Like, I've got them in Washington on Saturday afternoon. And, Wash is really good. I think maybe the surprise of the league. Them in Los Angeles, to me.
Yeah.
Them in LA. And the Rangers, I don't see where the good news is for them. And Zach Jones he's like, hey, what about me? I want to play. I want to
Yeah.
play. And so I totally get it and I'm sure the Rangers get it too. Like they might not be thrilled with his comments, but they got to understand, right?
Right.
You got to understand it in the least.
Yeah. Speculation continuing to swirl around the Vancouver Canucks. That's no surprise. I mean, given
Yep.
the injury issues that they're facing right now, we talked about it earlier this week. I guess a bright spot would be, right, the play of JT Miller the other night. This guy's been scrutinized since coming back from his leave of absence, and that looked like a JT Miller game that we're used to seeing over the path of his career.
Yeah, he was great on New Year's Eve in Calgary. They lose 3-1. He fought Kevin Ball. He had 7 shots, I think 5 hits, had an assist. Dustin Wolf, by the way, if people haven't seen that kid play, oh my God, is he fast in the net?
He is.
Like I was really impressed with him. And so he took one away from Miller. So here's the margin that Vancouver has right now without Hughes, without Hronek, without Pettersson. They played their previous game, they played Seattle. They played 55 almost perfect minutes. They're leading 3-1, 4-1, 4-1 at that time. They give up 3 goals in the last 5 minutes and they lose in overtime. So they played 55 minutes. I thought they played a pretty complete 60 minutes. Of course, there were mistakes in that in Calgary. So in totality, they played 115 pretty good minutes and got 1 point.
Yeah.
Like that's their margin of error. So you're looking for almost perfection to get points right now. It's they're in one here, and then so Vancouver plays Nashville on Friday. I'm just looking here, and then goes Montreal, Washington, Carolina, Toronto, Winnipeg. Like, holy smokes, what a road trip! And I think they'll have Pettersson back for it. Doesn't sound like Hughes to start, but man, oh man, it's a tough time for them. It really is, and it makes you keep looking around the corner to go, is something there? And I mean, I'm sure they're trying. Like most teams. Here's the one thing I will say: fans, of teams that are struggling, like they got to do something. They're aware. They're aware. Yeah. They just so if they're asking for a first round pick for a third line guy, you're not going to make that deal.
No.
And so that's. I mean, sometimes you got to sit there and take a bite of the shit sandwich, and that's like you just can't get anything back, and that's kind of where they're at. And not just Vancouver. Don't you think the Rangers would like to make another move?
Of course, Buffalo go down the list. Right?
Yeah, and if you just can't find it, you can't give away your players. No.
Let's spend a bit more time, then we'll wrap up the Tim Hortons headlines here in the West. Spend a bit more time in the West. Avalanche have won 5 in a row. So they're obviously on the move, and now they've got the Minnesota Wild in their division in their sights, second place. What are your thoughts on the Mackenzie Blackwood extension? 5 years at $5.3 million per. Is that a gamble, or is that a good investment based on what you know and what you've seen to this point in Mackenzie Blackwood?
Well, they were going to do something with their goaltending for sure. The fact that they completely changed it out mid-season in 10 days is like, I can't think of another team that's really done that. So, they get Blackwood, excuse me, they get Scott Wedgwood. Now they went from an unreliable team to a more veteran team, and one that they think is going to be able to hold the position. So when Blackwood was considered one of the better young goalies, he was in New Jersey. Then he got hurt a couple of times, fell out of favor there, goes to San Jose, and you just get your teeth kicked in there. So I guess your scouting tells you that you trust this. It's not the 5 games he's played in Colorado. It's you trusted that he was the guy for you. Is it a gamble? I guess the position seems to be a gamble all over the place. Like guys play well one year, not the next. But I like the look of their team a hell of a lot more with him in there than with Georgiev. And certainly they've played much better. For the first time, they get healthy all year. And then last game, Nichushkin gets hit, and he's got some kind of lower body injury. He came out in the last 2 periods, so maybe they're not as healthy as. But like that's a really good team, and they look like they're rolling a little bit. McKinnon was Player of the Month, and but the West gets overshadowed a bit for sure by the East. but Vegas is terrific. I think one of the best teams in the league. LA, as I said, along with Washington, they've been one of the surprise teams in the league for me. Minnesota's battling some injuries, and by the way, like that, you saw the Spurgeon injury.
Yeah.
Have they handed a suspension down to LaRue yet?
Not yet. No.
That should be severe. That's a brutal, dangerous, dirty play. And he kicked out Spurgeon's feet like inside the goal line. And legs are not supposed to bend like that. And Jesus, man, I hope somewhat the news is okay for Spurgeon.
All right. I'm asked about this a lot of late, and you like talking about the power play. Doesn't matter whose power play, good, bad, or otherwise. So we'll wrap up the Tim Hortons headlines with your thoughts on the Dallas Stars power. We know Dallas is a good team. Yeah, they've been inconsistent, but I think our eyes are drawn to the data of that power play. That power play last year was potent, right? I think it was 6th at one time in the league.
Yeah.
And now it's, ranked 28th? It has to be more than not having Joe Pavelski as a part of it. What are you seeing?
Well, it's funny. Like I ran into Joe in Chicago the other day. It looks fantastic. Yeah. And I said, do you miss playing? He's like, not really. Lots of fishing, lots of hunting, coaching his kids team, and I'm like, oh, okay. I said, well, they miss you, man. And so the first power play goes out there. They lose the first face-off. They shoot it down the ice. Dallas doesn't get set up for a minute. Well, Pavelski was one of the league's best face-off guys. He wins 60% of the draws. So there's one place they miss him. Now they get into the zone. Eventually they get set up. Pavelski demanded the puck in the bumper spot. I think him and Patrice Bergeron are the gold standard for how you play the bumper position. You're active. You're always available. And when you get it, you can finish or make the right play. So they miss him there too. That being said, that he's not there, they've got Logan Stankoven hasn't scored since the middle of November. They have high hopes for him. Maverick Bourque is a young guy trying to find his way. They're trying to put they're trying to. This is who they have. They're trying to put players this is maybe advanced for them to make the right play on the power play more often than not. So they spent most of the game, Drakes, chasing the puck down to their end and starting another breakout. So I think they miss experience. They miss pace. Like power plays that work, the puck goes zip, high, low, sideboards, behind the net, around the other side, back, shot, retrieval, move it again. There's plod.
Right.
And power plays that go slow go nowhere. And that's what I saw in Dallas the other night.
All right. Well, as we wrap up the headlines, just following up LaRue's hearing, by the way, with the NHL Department of Player Safety is this afternoon, Thursday. We're recording early afternoon here on Thursday. So we'll learn at some point.
Is it in person or is it not?
Hold on a sec. I don't believe it is, but let me just qualify that before we get too far. Nope, just a hearing for tripping, slew-footing Minnesota's Jared Spurgeon. So that was announced yesterday, and that'll happen today. And we'll find out at some point, probably tonight, Friday, as to what the severity is. So,
well, I can guarantee you Minnesota's not going to be happy with the decision.
I'm sure not.
Yeah, whatever. Right, if it's a max of 5, that's right. That's pretty much what it is, right?
That's pretty much what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Then I can't imagine they're going to be thrilled with it.
Time to make tonight's picks. Oh, he is definitely a winner. Good thing it's easy and free to play.
My streak is on the line here. Fingers crossed, because it all comes down to this. I just love getting the chance to win prizes every game day.
The Tim's NHL Hockey Challenge is back. Play on game day.
Vancouver and Seattle for you, and then home for the weekend.
No. Then I fly to Washington. Have the Rangers in Washington Saturday afternoon. Have a little studio, ABC studio on Sunday.
Oh, of course you do.
But that's in Hartford or Bristol, where ESPN is. And then, do you know how you get from Hartford to Vancouver?
Not by car.
And not directly. So I've got what time is my flight? 6:00 Monday morning. I get home on Monday afternoon. So
And
that's the
where do you
weekend,
go? Do
Drakes.
you go Hartford,
I go to
Denver, or
Minneapolis.
Hartford, Chicago? Oh, okay.
Minneapolis. That's the
Interesting.
best connection. So,
Good for you.
by the way, you know what? I just got this app. I've got this app that I file all my trips in. You know,
Right.
you put your flights in.
Yeah.
It gives you a year-end summary. So I get this notice on the January 1st. So how many kilometers last year, Drakes? Do you think?
For me? Oh,
Me.
I don't know. Oh, for you? I'm going to say 125,000.
430,000 kilometers. I'm like, what am I
boy.
fucking doing? Like, I know I did go to Europe a couple times, so you pick up some good chunks there. But so it says I went 11 and a half times around the world, and Landon said, yeah, or 43 times around New Jersey, which is basically like what I do, right? Like you go around the East Coast.
No.
So
Is that super elite? I mean, it has to be, right?
but yeah, super stupid is what it's
Good
called.
For you.
But you know what? I don't fly the plane. I do a lot of work in it. So, but anyways, it was just a number, and I was like, oh,
That's a big number.
Yeah. So,
all right,
they don't
buddy.
give
Well,
you
you don't
anything
have
for either. You don't get nothing. I don't know what you should get, like a piece of luggage or something. I don't know. Wouldn't that be nice?
Eventually, you'll get something when you hit 1 million.
Oh, I'll pass that.
1 million would be a lot. I mean, to get to 1 million, you probably already surpassed that. In a year, that would be crazy. Yeah.
No, in
twice
a year,
as much.
I would. No chance. No chance. No chance. No. Move it along.
Well,
I'm done with my travel.
I've got, the only travel I have is to Winnipeg later this month. That's it.
What, for one intermission? Or are you going to do two?
No, I'll probably do two. Maybe even the pregame too. Sarah Orlesky is back, so I'm more than willing to do more now. So
yeah. Well, good for you.
Right,
you
buddy.
get to do all that travel. Make sure you get everything booked and locked in. I hope you're okay.
Couple of days at the Cabbage though.
Oh, that's why you're going. That's why
Method
you're going.
to the madness here, Ray.
Yes, there is. Very much so.
All right, buddy. Well, in all of that, travel safely, and
thank you, sir.
Look forward to checking back next week.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great week.
Yes, and thank you to our sponsors who continue to support Ray and Dregs and make the pod possible. Our new title sponsor, Tim Hortons, thank you. And our Ask Ray and Dregs Anything partner, Acon. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Plenty of hockey to keep you busy. And in the meantime, as always, stay safe.